What's up, fight fans? Today's news features Conor McGregor's Twitter spree after his recent arrest, Joe Rogan's warning to Conor, Khamzat Chimaev's thoughts on Jon Jones being the pound-for-pound king, Michael Bisping's thoughts on the Masvidal Covington situation, and Dustin Poirier's future UFC plans. Welcome to Sportskeeda MMA's daily news roundup for March 25th. Conor McGregor recently went on a Twitter rampage and decided to blast a couple of the UFC's best. In light of McGregor's recent arrest for driving dangerously, a couple of UFC stars decided to roast him on Twitter, starting with Nate Diaz, who said, "Wolverine could play my part, so we can see him beat Jared Leto's ass. That'd be fun, right?" Conor fired right back in the since-deleted tweet. "The kid that played Heisenberg's son in Breaking Bad is who will play you, virtually identical." And Nate Diaz replied with, "Then you're Warwick Davis." This was referring to the desire from film actor Jared Leto to play either Conor McGregor or UFC President Dana White in a biopic about the UFC, to which McGregor replied to Leto with an invitation. "Jared Leto, I invite you to come and practice the part with me." McGregor then went after Rafael dos Anjos, after dos Anjos tweeted about Masvidal. "You're either a BMF or you're a sucker puncher. Can't be both. Dana White, time to hand that belt to me." To which McGregor replied with, "Rafael dos Anjos pulled out with a sore toe in what would have been the biggest fight of your bloodline's existence, past, present, and future. You are never eligible." RDA fired back, says the bitch that needs bodyguards to go weigh in and taps to rear naked chokes, too scared to go to sleep. And finally, Henry Cejudo threw his jab. "Conor McGregor, I know you are scared to fight me, but slow down, buddy. I need you to get injured during the fight, not before." McGregor ended his Twitter spree with this, "Henry Cejudo, mate, I don't give two f***s about you. You are a nobody. Who the f*** even are you? You are a little skid mark to me. Stop messaging me, thanks." Which Conor tweet was your favorite? Joe Rogan recently weighed in on the possibility of Conor McGregor versus Kamaru Usman for the UFC welterweight strap. Kamaru Usman is currently 20-1 in MMA and is riding an astonishing 19-fight winning streak. On a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, Rogan warned Conor of what it means exactly to challenge the pound-for-pound king. "Be careful what you ask for. Usman is a big man, and he's top of the food chain right now. That's the best pound-for-pound fighter alive, Kamaru Usman, and he's a natural 170. That's a different peak. There's no oxygen at the top of that mountain. That's as good as it gets ever at 170. Rogan would even go on to say that he would put Usman against the best to ever do it, namely George St. Pierre, the former UFC welterweight and middleweight champion. I'm not saying that he would beat George St. Pierre. I'm not saying he would beat all of them, but he might beat all of them. He might be the best that's ever been at 170. Conor McGregor has not been active in MMA since suffering a compound fracture of the fibula and tibia in his trilogy fight with Dustin Poirier at UFC 264. In a recent interview with the Mac Life, McGregor spoke about his UFC return and had this to say, "I'm gonna waltz back into a title shot. Make no mistake about it. It has to be a title shot. What else can it be?" And then said this about Usman, "I feel confident against Usman. A jab-happy, sloppy, unorthodox wrestler with no submissions whatsoever. What's he gonna do? Where's the danger here? His ground and pound isn't strong. Plus he's on the older side, and the world would be talking again. The Triple Crown. No one's ever achieved 3 UFC world titles across 3 divisions. Do you think Conor is in over his head by calling out Kamaru Usman?" Khamzat Chimaev recently sat down with Darren Till and Henry Cejudo to discuss the recent goings-on of the MMA world. Among the topics of conversation was the UFC's #1 pound-for-pound debate, and Khamzat had a quick answer for this. "Jon Jones, of course. Nobody is like him. He beats the monsters. I do all my training with Alex, and I know how good he is. And if Jon Jones can stop that guy, it's scary. Knockout power, on the ground, everything was like perfect. You can't say Kamaru is better than him. If he stays in the game, he's pound-for-pound #1. He then continued, "I think the first one is Jon Jones, then Cejudo because he has 2 belts. Usman only has 1 belt, and how many times did he defend his belt? 3 times, 4 times? Jon Jones did it all his career, and Kamaru didn't beat the guys that Jon Jones beat. Those guys are a different level. The 26-1 Jon Jones has beaten the likes of Daniel Cormier, Glover Teixeira, and Thiago Santos in his light heavyweight title reign, including 11 title defenses. Jones has not been active since his title bout with Dominic Reyes in 2020. Since then, Jones has vacated his belt and now eyes a move to heavyweight to potentially challenge Francis Ngannou for the strap when the champ fully recovers from his recent surgery. Do you think Khamzat Chimaev will one day be in the pound-for-pound discussion?" Michael Bisping recently gave his thoughts on Jorge Masvidal's sneak attack on Colby Covington at a Miami Beach steakhouse. Jorge Masvidal was recently arrested in connection with the altercation, but has since been released on bail. The former UFC middleweight champ had this to say about the situation. It was very personal, and Covington did say some things that shouldn't be said. And I'm not excusing Masvidal's behavior here, not for a second, but if you talk about a man's ex-wife or wife, even talking about an ex-wife, that's even more explosive. And then he's talking about his skills as a father, talking about him being a bad father. That stings, that hurts. That's sticking in the knife and giving it an old-fashioned twist. I believe in the fight game there are certain things you shouldn't talk about, and that should be off the table. Children should be off the table. Khabib Nurmagomedov also sung a similar tune. If you are stronger than someone inside the octagon, it does not mean you can insult his children. No one has the right to insult someone's family. Once you have gone down that path, then be ready to back up your words. You are attacked by a professional fighter, the same as you are, your own size, and you go press charges against him to the police? I think all welterweights should refuse to fight Colby. Just don't accept fights with him. Let him sit without a fight. It will probably significantly affect him, and all fighters who even think of insulting families. Who is provoking the fighters to look for someone in restaurants to deal with him? Do you think speaking about people's families is off limits in MMA trash talk? And last but not least, Louisiana hot sauce salesman and UFC lightweight contender Dustin Poirier recently hinted at what his future in the UFC looks like. On Twitter, Poirier replied to a fan who asked him who he wanted to beat up next. Not sure. I wanted to fight Nate this summer, but just found out he's hanging them up. We'll see what's exciting in the future. Then another fan laid out a promising plan. You need to win a big fight, and then challenge Gaethje for the title, considering he wins against Charles. And Poirier replied with, maybe that's the move. Dustin Poirier is 28-7 in MMA and is coming off a title fight loss to Charles Oliveira at UFC 269. Oliveira is slated to fight Justin Gaethje for the lightweight belt at UFC 274. That about does it for Sportskeeda MMA's daily news roundup. Here is one final question for you fight fans. What are your predictions for the lightweight title fight? Who deserves to be the #1 contender after? Don't forget to subscribe and follow Sportskeeda MMA on all our social media platforms. Thanks for tuning in.